about one of the most important things that you're going to need for the spray starch applique method, and that is starch. If you're living in the US, you might notice that the starch looks a little funny. The reason is that I live in Germany and I only have the German brands available to me. When I first started with this method, I used the brands that were available to me, and I really enjoyed how the method had worked. And it wasn't until I had traveled to the US to visit my family that I noticed that all starch are not the same. So one thing that I had learned by trial and error is that you must make sure that your starch is a pure starch. It doesn't matter whether you're using a spray starch or whether you're using a liquid starch. It has to be pure. I found this by accident whenever I had picked up one day at the grocery store. Here's a starch that has an extra additive to it. This additive is great for whenever you're ironing shirts, but it's not perfect for whenever you're wanting to do starch applique. I noticed that whenever I used brands such as Niagara and Faultless, that I ended up having to work harder to get my applique shapes. The shapes weren't staying nice and neat and pressed how I wanted them to be. So the most important thing to remember is that you must use a pure starch. Another thing is no matter how tempting it is, do not water the starch down. Once you water the starch down, again, you have to start working a little harder to get your applique shapes to stick. So all you do with your starch applique, shake it up a little bit, spray it into your bowl. Again, you'll notice that this is the bowl that I'm using for my starch applique. It has a little bit of curve at the top, so that way the paintbrush fits down into it nice and neatly and doesn't slide away. Once the bubbles have dissolved and this becomes liquid, you're ready to start.